Hey everybody, it's Pastor Chris. I'm coming with you right now live. I'll be right back. I'm not going to do my countdown today. I'm running a little late, so I just want to give time for people to get on here. So if you're already on there, great. God bless you. If not, we'll see you just in a minute. Just give me a few minutes just to get ready, and we will rock and roll. Hey, good to have you here for a word of encouragement. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Pastor Chris. I told you I'll be right back. I'm back with you now. Let's get this program going. It is January the 10th, 2023, and this is PC Studios, Word of Encouragement, coming to you live from Lexington Park Baptist Church, going out on Caster on several channels, but if you want to be with us live, you need to be at facebook.com/Pastor Chris McCombs. Hey, today we're talking about joy, overwhelming joy. Who here could use a little joy? Man, I think all of us could use a little joy. Unfortunately, in our lives, a lot of times we get joy suckers. And I started thinking about that a little bit. If you've seen joy, they call them suckers on trees. So I had this big oak tree I just got cut down in the front, and I have two other big trees, but one was dying at the top. But the other ones had what they called suckers. They're just little tree branches that start to grow as this big oak tree's growing up. And when the company came over, they said, hey, we need those other trees. They're healthy right now. Some of them have a few issues, but we need to get rid of the suckers. They're not helping the tree. So they cut up the tree, and they cut up all these suckers, and they cut off a couple of high branches that were leaning over my driveway towards the house in case they fell or the pressure, it could fall and hit the house or land on a car. So they cut up all of these suckers, and some of them are longer branches. Some of them are, real small. But they cut up all these suckers. The trees look so much better now up front when that happened. And, kind of like a tomato branch, a tomato plant. If you've ever done that, you got to pluck some of those branches off too as you go up so that the fruit can develop. My whole point is joy suckers take away the joy. Joy suckers steal from you. And if you're a joy sucker, it takes from you. Dennis Prager, a guy I listen to Fireside Chat, talked about how doing the right thing's hard sometimes. Being joyful can be hard, but you need to be joyful. Complaining takes so much out of our lives. Being critical, being a complainer, being negative. I know some of you think, pessimistic type of thing. Those type of people, the Debbie Downers, the pity parties. I'm not saying there's not a time that things are not joyful. I'm not saying that there's not times when you have the right to be downcast. Life is hard, right? If anybody has a right to have a pity party, I've known some people in my life that have had the right to have a pity party. But sometimes you got to pick up your bootstraps and just pull it up, or put your britches on and get going, as we would say in Kentucky. And you got to find joy, overwhelming joy. And then there's joyful experiences. Get me no doubt about it. There are just purely joyful experiences. It's radiating in joy, and it's easy to be joyful. But it's so easy for us to become disgruntled. So I want to talk. I didn't get time to talk about this. The wise men are opposite of that. The wise men are overwhelmed with joy. What I want to talk to us and minister to us today is often we are not. We are often critical, complaining people, disgruntled people. And when we get to that complaint, listen, complaining just makes life miserable. Being critical just makes life miserable. Being disgruntled just makes life miserable. And again, even if there's just cause and legitimate reasons, I would say a lot of times we don't have the right to be disgruntled. We don't have the right to complain. We don't have the right to be critical. especially overly critical. And I hate people that use, excuse me, that does sound negative, right? But it really irritates me when people say, this is constructive criticism. No, it's criticism. Let's build each other up. Let's encourage one another. And listen, there's times where we have to say, look, you're failing. You're not doing this right, or you're not doing that, or this part of life is miserable. I got to deal with this. This really sucks. This suck fest over here. It is sucking my joy. I got to deal with that, and I have to deal with it in a way that I consider it pure joy. That's what the Bible tells us. Jesus considered the cross pure joy. Was it joy? No way. Was dying for our sins joyful? No. But he willingly went to the cross and endured the cross, endured the pain. He was bearing our sins. He who knew no sin became sin. And he considered that pure joy. That's an amazing lesson for us. So when things are pretty good, we should be joyful. When things are pretty good and you may not like, you might disagree with this or disagree with that, still be joyful. So let's look at this. How does it relate to the wise men? Listen, the wise men, it says here in Matthew chapter 2, it says that they came to Bethlehem from afar, they came from the east and they arrived in Jerusalem. They had to travel a long distance, you guys. They had to get all their entourage together, all their gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. They had to get their camels, their tents, and all that they needed to travel, they had to prepare themselves for. And so they did. And they traveled. That wasn't easy. That was a lot of hard work. To do something good, to do good is hard. To do good things may take preparing or planning, and things just don't come to you on a silver platter very often. So they had to prepare. They had to come. The Magi were looking for this star that filled them with overwhelming joy, right? They had to look for it. They had to read. They had to research. I think about that, all the education I've had. I had to read. I had to earn those degrees. I had to focus on it. I had to work hard, man. It was worth it. It was good. At the end, it's a piece of paper, though. But what's in my mind, what's in my heart, and what I learned and how I apply it is good. It was hard when I was going through it. I didn't want to write that 20-page systematic theology paper. I didn't want to have to deal with what's one issue that you want to learn about, and writing on a complicated thing. How do I solve this atonement issue? What do I do with remarriage and divorce? What are my positions on those type of things? Those type of papers were hard work, soul searching, scriptural. What do you really believe about the atonement of Jesus? It's hard. But the wise men, they knew. They had looked for the stars. The Magi, they had looked for this stuff. So they had prepared for that day. They had traveled on that day. Listen, when you travel a long distance, are you filled with joy? I'm not. Usually I'm tired, looking forward to getting to that hotel, or looking forward to getting to wherever I gotta get so I can just stop and just chill and watch TV or have a good meal and know that I'm there. It's not always a good, pleasurable experience. I don't enjoy that. But still being overfilled with joy. So what happens in here? Listen to what we see when we start looking at these wise men. Look at verse 10, chapter 2, Matthew. After hearing the king, they went on their way, and there it was, the star they had seen at its rising. It led them until it came and stopped above the place where the child was. That's verse 9. Then, when they saw the star, they were overwhelmed with joy. So they just visited this king, King Herod. They've asked him, where is this king of the Jews, this newborn baby? He doesn't know. And in fact, he's jealous. He's envious. He is filled with vindictiveness in his heart. They probably perceived some of this, but they're looking. They're on a mission. You're not the king I'm looking for. He didn't like that. So all this stuff, the traveling, the preparing, the studying of the chart, seeing the star, and now coming to this point, not finding the king that they want, it could have been disappointing. It was not joyful. Do you get the point? We can look at this text and what the wise men had to do and pick it apart and be disgruntled, be complaining. God, you said, we looked at these charts, we knew these stars, and now we're here in front of this King Herod. This is not who we're looking for. They didn't do that. They didn't do that. They didn't complain about giving up the frankincense, myrrh, and gold. They didn't complain about, we got to feed these camels. They didn't complain about how their butt was sore. They didn't complain about, I got to live my home and we got to travel and live in this tents as we travel. I don't want to do this. No, they weren't disgruntled. They weren't complaining. They weren't critical. Things might not have been ideal. a given, absolutely. But they focused on the star. And it says here, when they saw that star, they were overwhelmed with joy. What I want you to hear from this lesson is this. Whatever's still in your joy, don't focus on that. Focus on where your joy comes from. Look for that star. Look to Jesus. Look to Jesus. Look to the cross that says he considered it pure joy. Look to the things in your life that you can say, God, I'm grateful. God, I'm blessed. God, you've done this for me. Yeah, I may have had to prepare. I may have had to travel. Things may not have been easy. Things may be hard. Things may not look good. I might not agree with everything that's going on. Look, I don't agree with everything going on in America, but I'm glad to be an American. I don't agree with everything that's happening in the White House. In fact, I think some of it's an abomination to God, but I'm still grateful that I live in a land of the free. So it's all in how you look at it. Do I still fight against the things? Do I still like want to see like abortion demolished and marriage restored and to stop this gender stuff and mutilating and all the policies, the border, and do I want legal immigration to get better? Do I want to see things improve in our nation? Do I want to get rid of fentanyl? All those things we can sit there and go with all the problems. Yes. Do I want to deal with gun violence? Yes. Do I want to make our place safer? Yes. Yes. Then we act and we do things that are appropriate to bring about the change. We look for the star. We do what the Magi do. We prepare. We bring the gold. We bring the frankincense. We bring the myrrh. We get our entourage together. We get our tents ready. We set out. We get our camels ready. We feed them along the way. We protect ourselves because they probably had security with them. We go along our way. We find this. We see the king. We're not looking for you. I got to still keep looking. I was ready to prop up my feet. I was ready to just move on. No, I got to keep looking. I find the star. I'm overwhelmed with joy. In all that's going on in our life, I'm overwhelmed with joy. I'm not going to be a joy sucker. I'm not going to be defeated. I'm not going to be deflated. There may be things that rightfully do those things to me. Don't get me wrong. There are probably things in my life that are definitely worthy of being critical of, complaining of, and having a joy sucker moment and a pity party. And I'm not going to downplay any of that. Some of us have those moments, and some of us, listen, you need to cry, you need to mourn, you need to be sad, maybe you need to be disagree a little bit, but you got to find a way to move on. You got to find a way to look for the star. You got to find a way to do that. You don't take your ball and go home. A lot of people do that. In our culture, it's so easy, especially like church hopping, for example. I don't really like how this church is doing that. I'll just go somewhere else. I'll just take my ball and my toys and go somewhere else. And we see that in all kinds of culture, don't we? Think about it. That describes American culture. That describes American church. There's just a church down the street. No, we have overwhelming joy. When life gets hard, we have overwhelming joy. I need to work on that too. I need that. I want to be more like the wise men. I want to be more like the Magi. I want to go through all that they went through and say, I'm looking for this king. And I am not going to stop until I get there. And when I see the sign of the king, that star, I will be filled with overwhelming joy. So when I see Jesus in you, that's a star. I'm filled with joy. When I see God do great things in our church, I'm filled with joy. When I see God use me in a way to minister to a family that's hurting or going through a loss, or when I see a sermon that touches someone, an altar call, and the altar's filled and people are getting it and they're connecting with it. When I see people come up like those 19 people that joined in one Sunday, or when we get people baptized, we're filled with joy. I had somebody come up to me and says, I kind of walked away from the Baptist church, became Methodist, and they were so excited. This is the first time in a decade that they had witnessed a believer's baptism. They were filled with tears of joy over seeing that. Someone once told me that they were so glad that they were here and they were filled with joy because I ministered. I got down on a level of their little child and was sitting there talking to their child. And they're like, they've never had a pastor do that before. And I thought, my heart was filled with joy. Not that I was trying to earn any credit. I was just being me. Be a person that's filled with joy. Be a person that looks to be overwhelmed with joy. Be a person that looks for the star. Be a person that tries to bring positivity to a bad situation. Be a person that says, I'm going to look at things differently. I know that I'm doing what's right and I'm going to keep doing what's right. It's hard, and it may not feel like joy, but I've got to consider it pure joy. I've got to endure this cross so that I can experience the joy of Jesus. Sometimes we have a cross to bear. Sometimes. But many times, we just let life do it to us. Let's not let life defeat us. If we have to bear a cross, let's bear that cross and know this really sucks. This is not joyful. But in all the times that we have in life, when things are good, let's be grateful. Let's be joyful. And let's look to the star. Hey, I hope this encourages you. That's what it was intended to do today. I want to really encourage you. One, don't be a complainer. Don't be a joy sucker. Don't be a critical person. Be that person that can try to come into a situation that might be bad and make it better. Be that person that is grateful when things are good. And you make sure you're filled with joy. The wise men were. And I believe we can be too. I'm going to leave you with these two realities today. Remember, I changed it up a little bit. I appreciate you, and I appreciate the Lord. May you do the same as well. Hey, God bless you. Have a good day. We'll see you here tomorrow.